So the previous Mishnah spoke, if you remember, it was a while ago. Previous Mishnah dealt with.
What are you doing? Going back?
I was going to ask that people mute themselves. This Mishnah Elisha ben Avuya said, one who learns as a child, to what are they compared? To ink written on a new writing sheet. One who learns when an old person, to what are they compared? To ink written on a rubbed writing sheet. So we spoke about this, that we offered another interpretation of this. The simple interpretation is that, what's the simple interpretation? What's the simple reading of this Mishnah? So it's like in Hebrew it says niyar machuk. So somebody already wrote on that sheet.
Like a clean slate.
It's the opposite of a clean slate.
Well, no, the
kid's a clean slate. Right. An older person is like, I don't know, have you ever seen like older documents that they kind of erased or they chipped off what was on the sheet written beforehand and then they wrote on top of that? Ever seen something like that? So there's like back when they didn't have books like we do. They had scrolls or whatever. So they would write stuff. And if you wanted to use that same sheet to write something else, you had to rub off the ink. And then the sheet wasn't nearly, it didn't receive the ink, the next ink, as easily as a clean.
Like a chalkboard that you write something in chalk and you erase.
Like this, like, yeah, you can still see, yeah, something like that. So somebody who receives teachings at an older age, they have all the other stuff in there. And so all the other stuff's competing with the new stuff. And it's like the idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, that type of thing. Like it's harder. As you get older, you have all your beliefs, you have all your set ways. Right. They speak about that like in marriage too. Like if you get married older in life, I wouldn't know anything about this. But they say that you get set in your ways and then it's a little bit difficult as opposed to like starting your life together with your spouse. Like you kind of grow up into adulthood together. So that's the simple explanation. So really we should try to learn as much as we can when we're younger. That seems to be the simple explanation. Or when we're older, to know that we have those obstacles to our learning and try to set them aside or know our biases and nevertheless, it's not over. You know, it's an ER. You can write on it. It's not over, but it's a little bit harder. Yeah.
So is it that you are too filled with stuff or you're emotionally not open to accept anything other than what you already know?
What do you think? It's probably that. Probably both. Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
So what's the emotional piece that you ego or is it?
You know, you live this life and you have a paradigm by which you live by. And all of a sudden someone comes, you know, who's 40 years younger than you and upsets the apple cart. And you go, no, I mean, this has been working for me for all these years. That can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a big part of it. Yeah.
It depends on your personality.
Really thank you. Because I don't, yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not.
No, I don't think you are at all.
But I hear you, but would you also agree that the more it takes, even if there is a step that you have to take to put yourself aside, put your ways, put your system aside in order to make space for a new system. If you don't have a system, it's much easier. You know, it just kind of goes in. So that's a simple reading of that. Now, another way to read this, which we offered last time, which I think is a really nice one, is that you should learn. It says halomed yeled. That's the literal Hebrew there. Let's see it. Halomed yeled. Let's see. It says halomed yeled. What's halomed yeled? When you learn as a child, but it can also be when you lomed. When you learn, be a yeled. Yeah. Even as an adult. Be a yeled. It's not always easy, but there's this term. I think I talked about this last time, but if I don't remember, you definitely don't remember. So
I learned this before this Pirkei Avot.
What?
I learned this now. Like I'm listening, I remember learning this Pirkei before that I like that concept. You have to be like a child, like a clean slate, let the information come in. Don't let it be blocked by what's already there, even
Yeah.
if you're older.
So there's a concept like this there's a term called, I'm trying to remember the name of who before this idea. It's called the second naivete. Trying to remember where I read it. I have it in the book. Anyway, the concept is that when you're younger, you're naive. You don't have a life experience, so you kind of just accept things without so much criticism. As you get older, you become more wise, and you become more suspicious, and you become more analytical and critical. And that shouldn't be the last stage, though. The last stage is with your criticism, with your analysis, to still make space for simplicity. A certain what's called a second naivete, which is a willful naivete. You're not doing it because you don't know better. You may know better, but nevertheless, you still make space. I'll give you like an example from my life. So I had a stage. I went to yeshiva in Israel, and I, with simple faith, accepted Yiddishkeit, the text, Torah, like it was a beautiful thing. And then later on, I kind of advanced and progressed in Jewish thought, and I went through different academic institutions. And I went to Herzog in the Gush, and I went to Bar Ilan University, and I got exposed to academic research. And that kind of started to make me think a lot, made me think in a more sophisticated way about things. At that time period, though, through being heavily immersed in those texts, I didn't feel it. Like that's what just was happening. I was getting slowly disconnected from like my spirituality. Like I wasn't as strong spiritually. Like I was just taking in a lot of critical texts, and then it was creating like a distance for me between myself and the text. And like I would analyze it like a scientist. Oh, this is a very interesting text, because that's what I was just doing all day. So at a certain stage after that, that was like, at a certain stage after that where I came back to Judaism in a stronger way, and I embraced it, but I wasn't naive. I still knew the academic text. I still knew how to distance myself from a text. I still knew how to be critical of texts, but I wanted the connection, the simple childish connection to Hashem, and I came back to it, and now it's kind of like just like an interplay between them, kind of reading academically things, but still trying to pray to Hashem like a child, and know that like those are maybe I don't always have the resolutions to the academic stuff, but it doesn't have to hold me back from what I know is true for me, which is my inner faith, my inner connection to Hashem, my love for Hashem. And so they kind of work together now. But for a while, like I kind of went through those stages there. And so I think what it's saying here is Halomed Yel. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov speaks about this a lot, about simplicity. He has a whole story about the simpleton and the sophisticate. It's a very long story. So, but the bottom line is he talks about the simplicity is like the place to be, but the simpleton in his text isn't somebody who doesn't know anything. That person knows all the knowledge and this and that, but they still make space for simplicity. It's a hard thing to do, but you can do it in all areas. Like, I don't know, you're a parent, you're a grandparent, you're a professional. Doesn't mean you have to always be in that mode. You can like let go a little bit and get on the floor and play with your grandchild or your child. You know what I'm saying? There's room to be simple, and we all are children in certain ways. We're all children to Hashem, but in addition, it's not like you get older and you leave your whole past behind you. We're just like carrying on a 10-year-old, a 20-year-old. We're carrying all these personas inside of us, and we should not disconnect from them. We should try to access them and use them in a good way. That's what I think. Yeah. It's like interesting when you grow up, you like look and you think like that person's old when you're young, right? But you don't know that like once upon a time they weren't old, you just that's how you've always known them, or like us now or everybody now, whoever or not. But like there will be people who look at any of us and say that person's old. Yeah, but we're in our minds, we know we're not. We know we were not once old, and we don't all feel. We don't feel. We feel like a lot of sides to us, or we have a lot of young sides to us. Like sometimes, like we just connect with our brother or sister, and we act like complete children. or whatever, like an old friend or whatever. Like all those sides don't go away. They're there. That's what I think. I can't prove that. Is that me? I'm not sure. I can't prove that you're carrying all these characters with you, but I think it's true. And I think that like we can access them and use them for good. Access your child, access your inner child, your simplicity, and ride that wave to connecting to Hashem on a deep level. I personally think there's a whole in the Haggadah we just finished Pesach. The Haggadah has a hierarchy in terms of what is the ideal child. Right? We have the wicked child, we have the simple child, we have the one who doesn't know how to ask, we have the wise child. I think I talked about this once here. But so most texts place the wise child as number one. There's other text, and the wise child has to take care of the wicked child because nobody can answer his questions. And then the one who doesn't know how to ask, they'll hang out with the simple one. They'll just watch TV or something. I don't know. But the Barbanel says that the wicked child can only be his partner is the simple child, because the wicked child can sometimes sway the wise child, because the wise child's working through intellect and analysis, and the wicked child can convince them. But the one who has simple faith, strong simple faith, that they're tied into, they're bound into, the wicked child can't impact them the same way. So I think you could argue both directions, but there are many texts which place simplicity as like the highest level. It's not saying to not question, it's not saying not to analyze, but to allow space for that simplicity to surface. It can create like a great connection. Yeah.
So I didn't look at any of this in terms of like that word simplicity. I saw all of these like openness, that that you remain open to listen to different things or different ways of looking at things or different ideas, instead of being closed because you believe you already have the answer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we're saying the same thing. I'm not sure, but I'm using the word simplicity in the sense that that's because that's the word that's used, like tam and tamimut, and like as Avram was tamim with Hashem. He was whole with Hashem. He was open in a way to faith in Hashem. Yeah, it could I don't know. Could be similar or different. Yeah,
simplicity. It's really the person's not burdened with a memory with preconceived notions, and that's not simplicity being simple-minded. It's a more of a blank page, and also understanding that person is looking at things a little bit differently than you're looking at, and you have to find out how and where they're looking.
Yeah, to suspend a little bit, suspend your notion.
With the child, you just don't to communicate with the child. You have to know where the child is coming from, where the child knows where the child is.
Yeah.
I think that's not supposed.
I trouble you, Mike, to close the door. Thanks. Good. So this is just a review from last week, but this is Halomed Yeled. I think that could be a way to read it. To learn like a Yeled it's not bad. Also, another thing, the Kruvim, the cherubs look like children. So what are these cherubs? They're so weird, the cherubs. They're like these basically, you could think that they're like idols, right? They're like, it's a carved grave, it's an image in the Holy of Holies. It's kind of a weird thing if you think about it. And so, and the question is, you ask somebody like, what picture maybe you put a Rebbe picture in there, you put a picture of Moshe Feinstein, or I don't know, Rav Ovadia Yosef, or some, or Avram Avinu, Moshe, I don't know. But instead we put, they're faces of children. Two children facing each other on top of the Aron HaKodesh, the Aron. And so why is that? Maybe it's to hint at this, maybe to hint at this idea that the Holy of Holies, you can access it through a certain level of openness or simplicity.
Also at that age considered pure.
Very pure. I think it's interconnected. They have the white, they have the clean slate. They're not,
They're not at a point where they're being judgmental.
Yeah, they are able to accept and receive things. That's why it's so important to be a good role model, be a good example, to be a good educator, because kids take stuff in. And as we all know, anybody's gone through therapy in their adulthood, there's a lot of stuff that you take in when you're younger. You have to kind of figure out how to make sense of it when you're older. So it's very important, a very holy stage, like to teach younger children, to be a grandparent, like very impressionable, and you can like really impact them in a very powerful way. So, all right. I saw Mark, you were going to say something, or did you want to share something? You can unmute yourself.
No, I was thinking, this sounds like
I can't
right
hear
brain,
you.
left brain
We
distinction.
can't hear you.
Turned off.
Did I? Are you muted? No, you're not muted, but we can't hear you.
Uh,
Volume could be down.
Well, it looked like it was important.
Can you hear me now?
We can't hear you.
You hear?
Don't want to type it up.
We still can't. What, you want to write it in the chat?
Yeah, okay.
Put in ChatGPT. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Let me see if I can like do that.
Tell them to go out and go in again.
Maybe sign out and sign. Try that.
Can you hear me or?
Sorry.
I don't know. It's
Can't
showing
hear you.
that it's on. I don't know.
Is there anybody on?
I don't know. Can someone say something, Nadine? Can you hear
Rabbi,
me?
the problem has to be on your end because I can hear him at
No,
home.
we're not hearing you.
Someone say something. Anybody.
Email.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can hear him at home.
I don't think we can hear it. We can't hear
I don't
anybody.
think you can hear the Zoom.
Maybe the volume
Do
needs
you
to.
have everyone on mute?
There's a button here. Maybe. Oh, here. Let's see. Maybe I can turn up the volume here. I heard myself a bit ago, right?
Yeah, that would be echo.
The echo here. Oh, is this even on? Can they hear us? Can you hear us? Raise your
Can,
hand.
Is anybody
Oh.
home?
Can you hear us? Raise your hand if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear.
Okay.
Are you just raising your hand because I raised my hand? Or are you raising? No, sure. Okay.
Simon says.
This
You
is
can't hear
this is
anybody.
like
And we're gonna raise,
I can't
we're
hear
gonna
anybody.
raise our hands if we can.
All right. Sorry, I can't. Okay, at home we hear everyone. Oh, you hear each other. Interesting. Someone just
Correct.
texted me that, Marianne. All right, that's interesting. I'm not sure what to do with that.
Is that a way to have two classes going on at the same time?
I'm not sure what to do with that, but maybe I muted you here. Let's see.
They can hear us and each other, but we can't hear them.
All right, can you try to say something?
What about if you go out and bring
All right. All right, it is what it is, I guess. Okay, so sorry. I guess we're not gonna be able to hear you guys doing this. I don't even see this lit up. Okay. Sorry. All right. Let's go on to the next Mishnah.
Let's just, yeah.
Okay. This is Elisha ben Avuya who said that. Anybody remember anything about him? Elisha ben Avuya is also known as Acher, the other one. We learned about he was the Talmudic heretic, the rebel. Yeah, there's a book about him. There's with the classic novel, As a Driven Leaf.
Oh, is he, is it?
Yeah, I mean he was written about him, but he was
Yes, the brain's working now.
yeah, he was a
I was keeping
As a Driven Leaf.
late right now, but then,
so he was
have you ever read that book,
he
read
was
it?
one of the bigger rabbis in the Mishnah time of the Mishnah. Like he was you see him here in Pirkei Avos. There's not so many rabbis in Pirkei Avos. He was the rabbi of Rabbi Meir. And he and others. And he at a certain point left, he had like a whole crisis of faith, and he left the fold, but he never fully left. Maybe that's what he's saying. That's what he's saying here. You can't completely ever undo what you had. in the past. Although he must not have been in his heretical stage at this point. Anyway, they're probably not quoting from him in his heretical stage. But anyway, he left the path and he ended up still staying connected with Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir stayed connected with him and ended up kind of like learning from him still when he was in his heresy. And very interesting, lots of back and forth that happened between them. We're going to see that's going to be relevant for an upcoming Mishnah. But perhaps they brought this here. Perhaps this is hinting the fact that like it never goes away. Because even when he became like a heretic, even when he left everything, he still knew everything, and he still was reminding Rabbi Meir all these laws and all these Jewish laws that Rabbi Meir had to be careful with. It's very interesting. Anyway, so let's go on to the next Mishnah. Okay, so this Mishnah is Rabbi Yossi ben Yehuda, a man of Kfar Habavli, said, "One learns from the young. So what are they compared?" Okay, so we just learned about learning young. What about learning from young people? Is there what to learn from young people? What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What to
Okay.
learn from everybody.
Yeah. So let's see if Rabbi Yossi
Isn't
agrees.
that the big message in Pirkei Avot?
We'll see if this Mishnah agrees. He says, one who learns from the young, to what are they compared? To one who eats unripe grapes and drinks wine from their vat. One who learns from the old, to what are they compared? To one who eats ripe grapes and drinks old wine. Okay, so let's try to figure out two things. Let's try to figure out, close this. Let's try to figure out a few things. We have young and we have old, right?
Mhm.
We have grapes and we have what?
Wine.
Wine. What are the grapes for the young, if you're learning from them?
I'm right.
Right. What are the grapes for the old? Right.
I've been a little over.
What's the
Yeah.
wine?
Old.
Matt,
From the vat. What is that? What does that mean?
brand new wine.
Fresh wine.
Are
New.
old grapes raisins?
I think they're dried.
No, we're not talking about old grapes. We're talking about old people.
Yeah.
Nope.
That might. No, they don't look like grapes.
Yeah,
But
they don't-
And the wine would be wine that's past its prime.
so it's good wine, though. Old wine. Okay.
No, I disagree.
I
I think
understood that
it,
as being.
I
but
think
Old
it's-
vintage.
Good
no,
wine.
no,
Yeah.
might get something better with it.
It seems like they're praising, but you could read it differently. But
Hello, wine.
the common understanding.
Vinegar is what you're saying.
The common understanding is that we're praising.
There's a point of no return.
Very interesting. Interesting.
Well, yeah,
Okay.
but with wine, like what Sherry's saying though, if wine is.
Can you see this at home?
kept
Mark, raise your hand if you
properly, as it gets older, it can spoil and turn to vinegar. But if it is kept properly and it can turn out to be very fine wine.
The assumption here is that it's talking in a positive way about the old wine, but it's a creative reading. I mean, you could be open to that, but so let's try to figure out what they're saying here. Like, why, number one, is this not good? Why is that good? And why are we distinguishing? Why don't they just bring one example? Why don't they just say wine? If you learn from a child, it's like new wine, whatever that means. We have to understand what that means. If you learn from an older person, it's like old vintage wine.
So if it's young, it really hasn't gone through any process. It's just, just things that haven't been seasoned, they haven't been tested, they haven't been cultivated. And when you're old, things have developed over time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
When you're older, you've had a lot more life experiences. And you can share them with those who are younger about situations that they might be going through that they've never experienced. And the thing, where they say sometimes the Hashem saw age will make you wiser. You can tell them about your mistakes. So yeah, your old wine, but that word vintage, you've got vintage knowledge from not just on a personal level, but even in life, business, whatever, people like to talk to somebody. I'm like one of these guys in my world, I want to talk to the smartest person in the room. More often than not,
I'm available
he's
later.
an older person
For sure.
and he's more experienced. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I know some
Think of
young
that.
whippersnappers who are at least 25 years younger than me, with letters behind their name. They're smart people,
Yeah.
and I can learn from them as well.
So I want to bring,
Got a room full of.
And you got letters too, right?
I have some money. Yeah. Ted and then, sorry.
Be a little critical of old wine. To really get the best taste with old wine, you have to like open it up a little bit and let it decant.
So how,
Which means that, you just can't.
You gotta
You can't
filter
sit
it.
and drink your old wine and enjoy the most way.
Aerate it, yeah.
Before you drink it.
that's nice.
That's interesting.
That's nice. That's beautiful. Sherry, yeah.
Drink to that.
But I think the young is like, it's a fresh perspective.
Mhm.
It's a fresh idea.
So
It's
you-
a way that
So you're intuiting kind of what I wrote in my entry.
Yeah.
You get to read that at all, or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, great. The whole book?
I
No,
read this
Um,
for this.
yes, so that's my book, I explain it different. Like the literal reading here is like the young are not ripe, they're not processed. The old are the ideal. But I was gonna offer a different reading in the book, and I also want to bring your attention to the next Mishnah. Take a look, let's take a look at the next one. The next Mishnah says the following. Someone want to read the next Mishnah for Tess? Page 185. Rabbi Omer.
Okay.
Someone read, you can read it from the board. 185.
Read it from the board.
Go for it.
Even on the glasses.
Rabbi said, don't look at the container, but at that which is in it. There is a new container full of old wine, and an old container in which there is not even new wine.
Right. So some say, a few commentators say that, I think it's Rabbi Yonah, Bartanur, they say that this Mishnah disagrees with the previous Mishnah.
Mhm.
The previous Mishnah kind of makes a statement. Young, unripe, from the vat. Old, ripe, old wine. Now, this Mishnah is saying young could be ripe and old wine. The fact that you're young or old doesn't mean necessarily you're old. You could, on the outside, look old.
That's what you were saying before.
Yeah. So that's what you're saying before. On the outside, you can look old, but still have some really nonsensical ideas.
Don't judge a book by its
Don't
cover.
judge a book by its cover. So some say this is a debate. The previous Mishnah was making an overall statement. This Mishnah is disagreeing. Others say it's not a disagreement. This Mishnah is spoken about in the plural. It says ktanim, zkenim. Overall, this is a general direction. However, there's a lot of exceptions. There's a lot of times when you can find so overall, 51% whatever is like that, but don't think that there's rules on this. You can find people who are younger who have immense knowledge, and those who are older and don't have a lot of knowledge. Yeah.
In terms of wine, you can do your bracha on either old wine or new wine, it seems to me. So
Yeah, you can make a bracha. Yeah. So you're saying, I love that.
Oh, that's great.
Okay, good. So that's gonna lead us into my comment.
Oh, Dad, you're right. You're not fired tonight.
Go, Jerry, go. Good job. So did you hear what Ted said at home?
You're making a bracha. You'll make a bracha on it.
As long as it's not correct.
So
Yeah, but that-
Ted said here, he said that you make a bracha on old and new wine.
Yes.
So don't
and
discount.
that's looking at the external characteristic. It's wine.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
So I'm just gonna ask the question, but you don't have to answer this question. I'm just gonna put out this before I forget.
okay.
We also want to understand what the from the vat is. Like those who know about wine, what does that mean? So
Oh, from the vat?
you don't have to answer that. What were you gonna say before?
Oh, okay, it hasn't been bottled yet.
Or
They're like, well, what is it, what's wrong with that wine? It's just not,
it's great, it hasn't, yeah,
It hasn't
it hasn't
aged.
been in the
It hasn't
barrel and
aged.
aged.
yeah.
What I was just thinking, because I was blessed just today. As you would say, I was blessed just today to listen to my son and my husband learn together online. They learn every week. They're in Shmuel Aleph now. And this is the perfect young and old version of what we're talking here. My husband comes with a lot of knowledge. My son has been trained to have that knowledge too. And to listen to the back and forth. So I'm wondering if you combine all these three Mishnayot, if what the message is should we make sure that we're engaging with the young and the old together so that we can get the benefit from each side. And that's why I like this last one. It doesn't matter what the vessel looks like, there's good to be got from both sides.
Correct. It's really these three Mishnahs. These three Mishnahs work together. I think as the fourth Mishnah is also going to work together if we get able to get there. But yeah.
Don't tell Keith I talked about him.
So also,
We'll tell him you called him a kid. That's fine. Yeah.
when you look at this, it looks like the young will drink from the vat, but they will also drink the old wine. The older people would never just drink from the vat.
Wow.
So the young people can learn
I didn't
far
know.
more than the old.
Wow.
And I'm saying, Janet, I hear what you're saying.
That's awesome.
That's a really good point. But I'm saying that what we need is that they both drink from the vat, both sources, and that they have to be open-minded to drink from both sources in order to gain more knowledge and to move on from this idea of there's a difference between young and old.
Two separate ideas, but they're
Yeah.
both great ideas. Yeah.
Janet's drinking fine wine at her
Me
house.
too.
Yeah.
No vat drinking.
I'm kind of with you on that, but okay. But I have somebody over and they cook them everything. I said, why? Good bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vat is
That's well, the vat, an oak vat versus cedar.
Yeah. So another way that the vat has been explained, which I think is just a good explanation. It's a vat, it's like the wine hasn't even settled yet, right? Like it's like some explain that when the wine hasn't settled yet, and so it's like it's murky. I guess the sediment hasn't settled yet or something like that. So
In a vat, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so the idea is like, and I've seen this with myself, like I've had the similar thoughts today that I've had like 20 or 30 years ago. Like they're my thoughts. Like can take years for you to develop an idea in the right way. I see it with Percavos. I wrote this book and I could probably write like a much more
Or an
addendum or I've got to many new ideas in our learning together and like I could like upgrade it because a lot of stuff's crystallized, in a much better.
Second edition.
Yeah. So
Or update,
what?
upgrade or update.
Both.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Smart enough.
I could do it.
To add what he's like
Saying like
learned in this
I don't know, like
month.
like in the first Mishnah, for instance, and all in the Pirkei Avot, I have an explanation there. I have a few ideas there, but in recent years, I've found out how to connect them in like a very good way. If I presented it like that, I think it would come off even better. So it's like, but it wasn't like that idea was there. Like it was in the vat. Those ideas were like around, but like now they've settled in and it's clearer. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I think it's like for all of us in certain things.
You know what's interesting, because this is what we're talking about, that wine can go bad if it's not taken care of, like what Robert said and what Sherry said. That I think in the same vein of we're talking about people and learning, that if you do not take care of the knowledge that you have, it can turn sour too. And then it becomes murky again.
Yeah.
and it turns into vinegar basically.
Yeah,
So that's just.
yeah, it's connected to the first thought.
Another-
Yeah,
Analogy.
yeah.
Has anybody here studied something and then studied it over and over again? I'm not saying like a CPA exam.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like you read especially about spirituality and Torah. There is a couple books that I have read. I've read Nasila Shisharim like 5 times, like 2 different versions with my conversion over 30 years. And what we're talking about, every time you read it,
how about
you
Parsha?
discover something.
Yeah, the harshers.
Parsha.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bingo. Thank you.
That's kind
But
of,
yeah, every time you study the Parsha from year to year,
You add something,
you
there's a
pick
new.
Well, you look
something
at a
else
different
up
piece of it.
Yeah.
that, you know, that
That's
you
what I
might
think we're
have
really good
either
at.
missed
at
or
the
didn't think
Parsha.
about, or maybe when you read it 5 years ago, you weren't
Yeah.
as dialed into it as you are now.
Or there's something that happens in your life that makes you read it differently, that affects you differently.
Go on.
Yeah,
I want to show you how what I wrote about here. 1 second. I get these smaller. Okay. So the Maharal distinguishes between the young and the elderly in terms of potential versus actualization. The vat with the unripe grapes and the wine from one's vat hold immense potential, but are difficult to consume. Right? It's hard to consume like the sour, unripe grapes, but all the grapes' potential is there. And so the Maharal attributes this to the fact that in one's youth, one's intellect is embedded in one's body, etc. Okay. I like to focus on the potential versus actuality dynamic. The Maharal does not say this, but one could argue for the validity of statements and teachings of the youth. The unripe grape and the vine, and the wine and the vat contain everything that will emerge. Okay? I do not believe our mission is guiding us to ignore the words of the youth. It may be hinting at the opposite. To go to the depths of what they're saying, thinking and feeling, and then find ways based on the elderly's life experience, combining them, to help actualize this potential. So it's basically saying like, it's not saying like they're like, you make a bracha over it, like Ted said. It's the children say certain things, they know certain things, they have certain intuitions, they have opinions, but they don't have always the right words for them. They don't always have the right experience to how to frame it. But, you know, or like they don't have the time to think it through the right way. But it doesn't mean that we should discount the movements of the younger generations, the inclinations, the thoughts, the new approaches. It could be just that it's not ripe. It's not there yet. But it doesn't mean it doesn't mean the older people should discredit the younger people. I don't think the Mishnah is saying that. I think it's saying, like kind of what Ted's saying, like there's a bracha you make on this. Like this stuff is all the potential, but it's not framed in the right way. And so maybe it's like what Sandy's saying. You need like a combination between these. You need the older people to help figure out what the younger people are saying and give them language to figure out their path. So a classic example of this was Rabbi Cook spoke about this a lot. He spoke about the newer generation and older generation in his time. And he said that they have to work together. And he said that's kind of like what he said. He said that's what it means. Eliyahu Navi is going to return the hearts of the fathers to the sons. So basically, the older people, they have direction, they have guidance, they're seated in tradition. But the younger people in his time were like the settlers. They had all these great inclinations. Like they wanted to build the land, they want to come back to the language, they wanted to build a nation and an army and all these wonderful things. The older people didn't know how to make sense of it because they're going up against the Torah. They're kind of, and so like he said, they have to work together and figure out how to do it together. The younger people by themselves, they're off, he said, because they're throwing away tradition. But the older people are, if they have to be open to hearing these ideals, these younger people are speaking from ideals. And you have to be open to hearing that. And so I think that goes all together.
Be open to hearing them, but knowing where to put the boundaries.
Correct, because it's unripe. It's unripe. It's from the vat. It doesn't taste good. But the fact that it doesn't taste good doesn't mean that there's not potential there.
Do you know, it's interesting. Our generation was the generation, I can't believe we're so old now, but our generation was a generation that really was so different than the generation before. You know, where our hair was long, the men grew their hair long, we would look like hippies, we did whatever. And our parents freaked out. They didn't understand our music, whatever. But we were, because we experienced that, we're much more open-minded when it came to our kids' interests. But then it started to lose its boundaries. And I think eventually it comes back. But it's interesting to, having lived through a few generations, remembering where my grandparents were, my parents were, and where we were, and a couple generations current, you know, it will be interesting to see where it eventually ends up, because everything's cyclical. But I can understand this whole idea of how the generations don't understand each other. I do think our generation is unique in that it was the first time that we broke tradition, and therefore we understood better for the next generation. Does anybody agree with that? Yeah.
It also goes for like new technologies too.
Yeah.
The technology of our day,
Are you gonna not join in and be stagnant?
artificial intelligence, the technology of the day. So it's like many are worried about. They're skeptical in terms of Torah knowledge, learning using AI, and it's understandable. It's brand new. Who knows where it's going to go? What it is. Rabbi Wahlberg, I once chatted with him about this. He said, people were really scared at the time of the printing press. There's a big switch in how we learned. In the time of the internet, each phase is scary because it's brand new. It brings with it all kinds of stuff. Doesn't mean that it doesn't have great potential there. We have to figure out how to harness it, how to direct it, how to guide it, how to grow within it. So
there's a whole generation, sorry, Siri, there's a whole generation of, not generation, there's a whole age group of teachers who stopped teaching earlier than they would have because they couldn't handle the internet. They couldn't get themselves updated.
Yeah.
And they were lost because that's what schools
it's the
went
same
to.
thing right now for AI.
Yeah.
It's you have to figure out as an educator how to I teach I allow students to use AI in certain settings, and I create the assignment around that, and I try to push them forward with that. It's a big many professors are worried about the spread of AI. It's very hard to assign like writing assignments today because kids will just plug it in. You have to figure out now what to do with it. You can assign different types of assignments. You can figure out how they can do research with the AI. So it's like you have to figure out. Yeah.
Well, I think some things is people get stuck with where do I fit into this? Or how does this apply to me? And I think that, people disconnect from it because they're just not sure how it's gonna affect them. And
yeah, there's a lot of fears connected to new things. Yeah, for sure.
I can counter that with a very good example, but I use AI all the time, almost daily, for what I do. And I actually had an argument with Claude. And twice I asked
Claude is the AI.
Claude's an AI like ChatGPT, and twice I said, I need you to build me a business model of the third temple. I want to know architects, engineers, structural engineers, everything. And I didn't say where it was going to be built. And it said, I cannot do that because of the geopolitical ramifications. And I said, I didn't ask you about the geopolitical. I asked you to build it. And twice it said, I can't do it. And finally I said, you're going to build me this model. I'm not talking about where it's going to be built or how it's going to be built. I didn't ask you about that. And it said, you have a good point. I apologize for assuming that you were going to tear down the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It apologized to me. And then it built me an entire business model.
Wow.
So
all right, that's a whole topic within itself. Let's use so did I finish this though? One second.
it's just one.
Let me just finish this one second.
That's an interesting.
I don't think I finished reading this. Hold on to it. Here. In contemporary times, Gen Zers don't get millennial.
That apology used up more energy than you need in the time. That apology uses up more energy than you use in your house.
So I have your attention. In contemporary time, Gen Zers don't get millennials. Millennials don't always understand the baby boomer generation. It's the way it is. This experience disparity doesn't objectively mean that the younger generation is wrong.
I still believe that? After you wrote that?
I think the generations don't understand each other. I think that they all look at each other. There's also a whole thing between millennials and Gen Zers. Gen Zers don't like millennials. Apparently, that was like a trend a few years ago. I don't know if it's still.
Still is.
I
So-
can't keep track of what they are.
Yeah, millennials are my kid.
Um,
And you're-
anyway, so it's
I'm a boomer.
just clarify.
Yeah,
You need
exactly.
to know, now sit in the corner and be quiet.
That's what's important. You know what you are.
All right, so we did this Mishnah kind of. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say, you were talking about stuff that with technology and the internet and everything. Like, we grew up, we had to know how to do math, we had to know and learn things. Now, I don't think that's as important, it's important now to know how to use the technology to find the information.
Yeah,
That technology does
Yeah.
not exist without math, my friend.
that's true.
Yeah.
It's the different tools, different skills.
Yeah.
They're gonna be new, yeah. All right, so let me see if I wrote.
Oh, sorry, Sandy, I'm in the wrong, you said the corner.
Our
Rotate.
But I also in the corner and be quiet.
Alright. Let's just let's introduce this next Mishnah, and then we'll kind of circle back to it next week.
I think that
Uh,
life was simpler.
This next Mishnah, this is the old and the new wine. I kind of talked about this in terms of this is the returning to the Elisha. Some people say Elisha ben Avuy. Some minority approach, from what I understand now, says that Rabbi Meir wrote this piece about don't look at what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. Rabbi Meir was Elisha ben Avuya's student. Rabbi Meir stayed connected with him even after he became a heretic. And they asked Rabbi Meir, like, what are you doing? He's really like far off the derech, as they say. And Rabbi Meir says, well, I'm not taking in everything he says. I take in the good and I release the bad. I take the fruit and I throw away the peel. That's what he said. And so he's literally implementing his teaching. If you say this is Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Meir says, don't look at what's on the outside, but look at the inside. Try to find the good. Rabbi Meir may have learned this from somebody very close to him, his wife. Rabbi Meir's wife was the one and only Bruria. Yeah, Bruria. One day, there's a story about Rabbi Meir. One day, Rabbi Meir was in his house, just like scrolling the internet or whatever, and that was a long time ago. And he was just in his house doing something, and he heard there were these like thugs, these like bandits, or these like bad troublemakers in the neighborhood, and they were driving him nuts. They were making noise, and maybe they were partying. I don't know what they were doing. And he prayed. It says he was praying that Hashem would like rid him of them, as in rid the world of them. Right? His wife says, "Rabbi Meir, what are you doing? Stop that! You're going it all wrong. You shouldn't make a distinction between the person and the action. They are acting bad, but you don't have to cancel them completely. They're doing bad things. Pray that they get better. Pray that they get better." And Rabbi Meir did. Meir prayed that they would get better. They did tshuva, and they did tshuva. They got better. And so he may have learned that from his wife, who taught him, don't look on the outside. Look at them. They may have some spark of goodness that you could pray for. They become better. And so it could be that she taught him that. Could be. She's done that teaching. Anyway, so I just translated this a little bit to like modern day politics a little bit. Like just, I said, we're plagued by many isms. Ageism, ableism, sexism, racism, and much more. A lot of isms. Like we see, I just saw this really entertaining, it wasn't speed dating, but it was kind of that model. There was this, I don't know how it came up my feed, but I watched it today. There was this guy who was a rabbi's son, and they placed him in a group of people, like a group of like 7 or 8 people, and he had to identify who he thinks was Jewish. He could ask them questions, but he had to figure out based on their looks who he thought was Jewish. They obviously this thing was like they put in people who had they put in this woman who was a convert who didn't look Jewish at all. So he thought she wasn't Jewish. And they put all these people, person who looked Jewish, he wasn't Jewish. And so sometimes we judge, we have all these preconceived, and the lesson was for him to like know that like he has a preconceived notion of what a Jew is in his head. And he has to like be flexible. No, it's not just Ashkenazi, pale, the dark hair. There's so many different types of Jews, and so many people you think are Jewish or not Jewish. That's the idea, like that we get caught up in like these externalities, and through them, we judge things around us. Where did I talk about? That's the next Mishnah. Okay. Anyway, so you have to look at the inside. So next week we'll talk about this Mishnah here. This next Mishnah, I'll introduce it to you, and then we'll come back to it next week. This next